Alright, on this video right here, we're just going to do number 2 to verify. And obviously with this, we're just going to work with the left side. Left side looks a mess. Okay, you have these fractions. Now what should really stand out is you have fractions and you're adding. So you have to find a least common denominator. Some students will look at this bottom right here and say, well, that's a Pythagorean identity. But that sign is not squared. So therefore it can't be a Pythagorean identity. So the only thing to do is to find an LCD, and the LCD is just going to be the product of both of these denominators. So LCD is just going to be the quantity of 1 minus sine of x times the quantity of 1 plus sine of x. Now, this is going to be good because these are conjugates right here. If you FOIL this out, you're going to get 1 minus sine squared of x, which is a Pythagorean identity. But before we do that, let's multiply each of these two fractions to see what our new numerator is going to be. Okay, the first fraction, 1 over 1 minus sine of x, I'm going to multiply by this factor, the other factor. I'm going to multiply the top by 1 plus sine of x, and the bottom by 1 plus sine of x. So it gives me that common denominator. So if I do 1 times this 1 plus sine of x, I just get 1 plus sine of x. Now the second fraction, I'm going to multiply by this other factor. The top, I'm going to multiply by 1 minus sine of x, and multiply the bottom by 1 minus sine of x, so it gives me that common denominator. Now same thing if I distribute this 1 to it, well, I get the same thing. I'm just going to have plus 1, I'm just going to get this, plus 1 minus sine of x. And then if I look, the top, this sine of x minus sine of x, they go away, they cancel out. And then I just have this 1 plus this 1, and it's just 2. Now this is good because I always take a peek on the right side. I have this 2 right here. Now this is where, take a look at the other side. It's 2 secant squared of x. I have 2 up top. Right here I'm going to put a question mark. In this bottom, what I want that to equal is the reciprocal of secant squared of x, which is cosine squared of x. Okay, I kind of alluded to this. Conjugates, these are conjugates right here. The 1 minus sine of x times 1 plus sine of x. When you FOIL this out, you get 1 minus sine squared of x. So it's always good to multiply conjugates, because the outer and inner terms go away. And then 1 minus sine squared of x, well, that's Pythagorean identity, that's cosine squared of x. So then you pretty much have it. It's 2 over cosine squared of x. And then when you move the cosine to the top, it becomes secant. So then it equals that right side of 2 secant squared of x. Alright, so again, once you find the LCD, you'll start to see some more identities, Pythagorean identity, and then, it'll start to look more and more like the right side of the trig equation.